Okay. I am setting up. Let's see how that works. I think this is the way it goes, but I'm going to double check. So I hope you can hear me okay. That's and let me bring up my my chat. My good old chat. Where is my chat? Let's see. There. I think I have my chat on now. There we go. Hi, Lauren. Can you hear me all right? Do you hear my voice? You do. Okay, so no problem with my voice. Good. I'm happy that you can hear me okay. All right, this is good. So, hi, everyone. And here we are again. We are on Thursday. It's Thursday, and I am Flower Kisma. I'm the elf today, and I am not in Elder Scrolls Online. And that's the big thing, that I am not in Elder Scrolls Online. I am instead live with you here in my home studio. So exciting stuff, huh? All right. So let me take a recount of what happened last time. You just might be interested in knowing. We had to stop mid chapter last week, a very long chapter, and it's an important one. We're at the top of page 171, and we have been out in Loch Gur, and that night listening to the Shawnee, the local Shawnee. And for those of you who don't know what the term Shawnee means, I mean, probably from listening, you figured it out. It basically means traditional storyteller. It's an Irish storyteller. And they speak in rhythm, and they put their listeners into trance because they use this special process of storytelling. I've personally experienced it. This part of the story is true. I'm recounting a personal experience. So there you have it. And we are actually in Loch Gur Inn. It's quite late at night. And we're a small group at this point. Many of the pilgrims decided to go home or back to the B&B to sleep. So the picture behind me, I can't remember if I had this last week or not, but the picture behind me is Loch Gur. It's the circle, it's the Leo stone circle, the largest stone circle in Ireland that is of the size of Stonehenge. And it was actually built before Stonehenge, I believe. I could be wrong on that one, but it doesn't matter. So I'm going to continue reading at the bottom of page 171. A round of good night and thank you followed as the night came to a formal close. Cian escorted Vivian into the cold night air. One by one, they climbed around They climbed around the coach. They climbed on board the coach and drove away in silence. Within 5 minutes, Rose was deposited at her B&B, and the bus pulled back onto the narrow two-lane road, moving into the eclipse of the night. As if having waited for that moment, the remaining four spoke all at once. God, I felt like he was hypnotizing me, uttered Carla. He's not right, Joe sputtered. That bastard, pronounced Kian, who had to endure insult after insult from the old man. They've done something to the bus, accused Vivian. What? The other three asked in unison. Look, I'm not into conspiracy theories, but I mean, I don't have a paranoid complex or anything, but when that man told Sean McDowell everything was taken care of, I couldn't help but feel they'd done something to our bus. What man? Asked Kian. The man and the woman who came in, Vivian said, sure now of what she had suspected. John was his name. Sean McDowell even acknowledged him. Didn't you guys see them? I don't remember Sean McDowell talking to anyone, said Carla. That's because you were being hypnotized, Joe teased. I vaguely remember a man and a woman standing at the bar, said Kian, smoothing his beard down over his chin, deep in thought. Well, Sean McDowell kept insulting you, you know. I think he thought you were English because of your accent. Yeah, I know, the bastard. Even though you don't really have an English accent. Well, I really felt like something was. Bullocks, swore Joe. What's wrong? Asked Kian. I'm losing power. Come on, you guys, stop teasing, Vivian begged, not in the mood for games. I just really felt weird in there. I know they didn't do anything to the bus, but, well, the engine's cutting out, said Joe, reaching down and fiddling with the choke switch. The engine coughed and whined to a halt. Once, twice, 3 times Joe tried the ignition, pumping the gas pedal, pushing and pulling the choke, and each time it growled, sputtered, and fell silent. You're serious, right? Asked Carla. This isn't a joke? Asked Vivian. This is rule, said Joe. I don't have any power. Fuck, swore Kim. Joe switched off the bus lights, pumped the gas pedal, and turned the ignition. It only clicked, and the engine didn't sputter. They sat frozen in their seats inside the white bus in the middle of a narrow two-lane road in pitch black. Fortunately for them, they had 2 factors in their favor. Number 1, the bus was big, and number 2, it was white. Oncoming traffic would have a hard time not seeing the thing the moment the headlights flashed on it, but they also had 2 factors against them. The only people on the road at that hour were probably sleepy and on their way home from a pub, which meant the likelihood of driving under the influence. Joe moved into action. He removed the engine hub and began tinkering about with any and everything he could think might be the problem. This he did with Kian standing over him holding a flashlight so Joe could see what he was doing. Vivian and Carla sat in silence, throwing furtive glances between themselves. Well, the battery is sparking, said Joe thoughtfully. I thought maybe that was the problem. He scratched his head, then switched on the interior lights. Okay, no need to worry about using the battery juice, Joe said, and looked at Vivian while he wiped the grease off his hands with a red and white striped cloth he kept in the bus for just this purpose. Tell us again what you thought that man did to me bus. I don't know what he did or if he did anything to the bus, Vivian sighed and licked her lips. I just felt this overwhelming sense that he had done something to the bus. Like what? Cried Kian. I don't know. I mean, if you had to use your intuition, what do you think he might have done? Something to the gas, she said, thinking how stupid she must sound. Joe whacked Kian's arms. The gas tank, Joe said, opening the door and disappearing outside into the darkness. Kian moved to follow, then paused on the bottom step. His eyes sparkled as he looked at Vivian. You might just be brilliant, he said hopefully, then stepped outside. Vivian moved to the window so she could see Joe open the gas tank and shine a flashlight down in it. He and Kian fell into discussion, their voices too low to understand exactly what was being said. Joe glanced up at Vivian, the flashlight at her through the window, a silly grin on his face. Maybe we should walk back to the pub before everyone leaves, Vivian suggested as Kian and Joe came back inside. Can't be that far. No, Kian insisted. Don't you have any clue where we are? Vivian shrugged. Kian grabbed her roughly by the shoulders and turned her body towards the windows. What's out there? Take a look, he ordered. Kian, I can't see anything out there except the shadow of trees. Out there is the Grange, he said. Walking back to the pub means passing the Grange. And I'm not about to have us do that, especially not if... His words trailed off. If what, Kian? Vivian glared at him. Look, I haven't told you everything about the coven yet, he said, but some of it has to do with Knockadune and some work I know that was done here. Vivian's mouth fell open. She moved to the bus door and stood on the last step, peering into the darkness. What did Kian fear about the Grange? Vivian knew that if Kian was concerned, then she had to hearken to that. Vivian tried one more time, feeling a panic rising inside. Well, if the Grange is right there, then the pub is only a few hundred yards up the road. Let's just run to the pub. Leave this bus right here and run for it. Kian flinched. Why didn't Vivian just accept his lead on this? He did know one thing. If what Vivian said was true about the guy in the bar, then something was going on, and it wasn't just a coincidence. Someone wanted them stuck. Ah, Joe spat, wiping his mouth on his sleeve. He had been sucking on the fuel line. Nothing. What does that mean? Carla asked. No fuel is getting to the carburetor. Which means? Asked Vivian. Are we out of gas, Joe? Asked Kian. No, the tank is full, but we're not getting any gas, which means the fuel line is blocked somewhere. Joe, what does that mean? Vivian asked. That something may have been put in the gas tank, or that last time I filled up, I got bad gas. There's something else I can try, but I'll have to go back outside. We're not out of gas, Joe. You're telling us the truth, right, man? Because if you forgot to get gas and we're stuck out here because the bus ran out of gas, then I'm going to kill you, warned Kian. Joe disregarded the threat. I filled up with gas, he assured Kian, but I'll need your help outside. Carla grinned at Vivian. Bait. She felt like bait. A giggle slid from her throat. Vivian caught the tail end of it and joined in. This is crazy, she said, gaining composure. What now? We have a long walk ahead of us, said Carla. Kian looked up from the engine. Vivian and Carla couldn't stay here all night. It was getting colder by the minute. Headlights lit up the distance. Car, he called to Joe. When Kian moved outside, neither Vivian nor Carla paid attention. It was as if they were losing control, becoming more hysterical by the minute. They fought to stifle their giggles and moved to the back of the bus. God, I'm cold. Carla hugged herself. What's this about? First the tires, now the engine? Asked Vivian. Car, she yelled. They watched the headlights get bigger as the car approached. Joe, Kian, this car's coming fast. I don't know, replied Carla, but it feels wrong, doesn't it? Like we're not wanted? Yes. Something is happening here. First, the bus is vandalized last year. Its hubcaps are stolen the same evening. Then the flat tires today. Now the engine. A conspiracy. I swear that's what's happening. They moved to the front of the bus. Car from both directions, called Vivian. Kian came inside. Okay, come on. I flagged down the last car for you. He's going to take you to Hilgar. What? Who? Asked Vivian. She and Carla had been totally unaware that he had stopped the last car. The darkness hid everything. Vivian looked toward the trees in the direction of the Grange. We're not going without you, Vivian objected. Look, said Kian, grabbing Vivian by the arm. We can't bloody well leave the bus here in the middle of the road. Joe can't, but I can't have you out here either. I need to know you're safe, and it doesn't feel safe here. Vivian stared in disbelief. Kian had never talked to her like this before, or treated her like this. But who is he? She asked, allowing Kian to lead her outside to the back of the bus. Carla grabbed Vivian's other elbow. He's okay. I checked him out. Kian stopped and turned to her, letting go of her arm. I wouldn't put you into just anyone's car. Trust me, okay? A hard edge was in his eyes. She looked at the car. The man sitting behind the wheel was young, in his late 20s, nice looking, pleasant looking. And when Vivian saw the baby seat in the back seat, she instantly relaxed. Before giving Carla the opportunity, she climbed back next to it. Kian bent down and looked at her through the window. Good girl, he mouthed, a weary smile briefly appearing before he rose and went over the directions once more with the driver. The car pulled away. Vivian turned and looked out the back window. She could barely see Kian and Joe inside the bus before the interior light flickered out and the car took a bend in the road. Carla told the driver what had happened. Vivian listened half-heartedly, reflecting over the course of the day, and was surprised when the car stopped and she looked up to see the farmhouse. Carla offered to give the man some cash for his kindness and the inconvenience of going out of his way, but he refused. No, thanks. Look, at it as a repayment for the other things, the other bad things that have happened to you, Lochburr, he said, waving and pulling away. Vivian followed Carla to the front door and paused. Her mind felt like a balloon filled with too much air, ready to pop. She grabbed the stair railing and stepped up. She stopped when she spotted the pay telephone sitting on its little brown table in the foyer hallway. Look, I need to talk to Justin, she whispered. Carla stopped and looked down at her. I feel like I'm reeling, she said. If anything will ground me, it's him. I'll see you in the morning, Carla. Vivian called home, called the sanity of her mundane life, her existence, really, and didn't breathe until Justin's gentle voice answered the phone. Hi, honey, she sighed into the mouthpiece. I miss you. Vivian, responded the excited voice of her husband. I didn't expect you to call for another day. This is a nice surprise. Is everything okay? In a rush, Vivian told Justin everything about the flat tires, about the weird meeting they'd had with Sean McDowell, about how the bus had died right outside the Grange, and about Kian's fear of them passing it. She told him the conspiracy theory, hoping it didn't sound too crazy. She wanted badly to tell him she was in trouble, that their love, their marriage was in trouble, that she had learned she could love two people at the same time, and how it really didn't mean anything. It wasn't a threat, that no harm would come to their marriage. But she didn't. She couldn't. She wouldn't hurt him. Not like that. Not when she was so far away from him and wouldn't be home for another few more days. Okay, remember our wedding day, Justin said, while Vivian's mind gasped. Somehow he knows. Just let it roll off your back, he tried to comfort her. Like we did at the reception when everyone started coming up to us over the beer running out or concerns with not having enough food because so many of my uninvited friends showed up. Okay, she said. Let Joe take care of his bus. He knows what to do, and he won't let anything hinder the tour. He's a professional. If Keen and Joe are working on it right now, then neither of them will let anything happen. Relax. Get some sleep. What time is it there? It must be late. Yeah, it is. Vivian glanced at her wristwatch. It's after 2. Okay, call me tomorrow or the next day latest, Justin said, his voice as soft and comforting as Vivian knew it would be. Let me know how everything worked out. How many more days will you be at this B&B? 1 more, she said, twisting the cord around a finger, feeling better. Everything placed into perspective. The conspiracy theory banished, only coincidental circumstances surrounding her. I'll call you tomorrow, she confirmed then. Is Shaney there? Can I say hello to him? Yep, your boy is right here waiting to speak to mommy. The simple act of communicating with the 3-year-old brought Vivian's head into the present moment. All frustration of the events leading up to the moment fled, and any hesitation she felt about the following day literally did not exist. Vivian had made the wisest decision. She had pulled her mind, her soul, and her heart out of the mystical atmosphere of Ireland, and for all intent and purposes, despite the fact that her body was still there, stood in the kitchen of her own home discussing the different flavors of Jell-O with her son, learning that his favorite was cherry and that he was going to Grammy and Granddad's house for dinner with Daddy, and that Daddy had bought him a new red fire truck. And would she bring him home a teddy bear? And would she bring him a fire truck too? With the request, Vivian refocused her eyes on the stairs, returning to Ireland. All at 3:15, Vivian heard footsteps outside her room and the sound of a door closing. She got out of bed to look out the window, but saw no bus below. Tiptoeing across the hall to Kian's room, Vivian gently knocked on the door. Kian answered immediately. He looked tired, but his face brightened when he saw it was her. I'm so glad you're back, Vivian whispered, suddenly aware she was in her pajamas. She covered her breasts with her arms. Go back to bed, love, Kian whispered, glancing down to the movement of her eyes, her arms, his eyes lingering there. Vivian stepped backwards. I just wanted to make sure it was you. I heard your door closing and it woke me up, so we're fine. Kian stepped towards her. Look, go back to bed. We'll talk about it in the morning. Don't worry about anything tonight. But where's the bus? We had to leave it on the side of the road. What? But how did you get it there? A bus of young soccer players came along. We flagged them down and they all piled out and helped. You should have seen it. Must have been a pretty funny sight. So it's just sitting on the side of the road? Yeah. And it'll be fine? We hope so. Then how did you get back here? I flagged down a guard. Kian shivered. I can't believe that I willingly got into one of their cars, but I did. Oh my God, Vivian smiled. Kian stared down at Vivian, a warm smile on his lips. Neither of them made a move. Each wondered what the other was thinking, not sure what to do next. Go back to bed, love, Kian finally urged Vivian, stepping back inside the boundary of his room. We'll talk about it in the morning. Vivian did as she was told, aware that Kian stood watching her. She closed the door and leaned against it, listening for the sound of his door. He had looked at her and talked to her so tenderly. She moved to the mirror and examined her image, thinking she looked like a little girl in PJs. Her own eyes came to rest as Kian's had, on her breasts clearly outlined under the soft cotton. Well, maybe not a little girl, she smiled to herself. The quiet sounds of the night embraced Vivian as she switched off the light and climbed back under the covers. She folded her arms under her head and stared at the muted light coming through the lace curtains from outside. A flood of thoughts came, thoughts that swam idly on the still sea of her mind, diving into the deep darkness inside. The clouds parted, and the golden sun shone through to highlight the thoughts she had had for him, warm, golden thoughts and dreams. Dreams that were harmless, or so they seemed as she glanced at the clock sitting on the nightstand next to the bed. It read, 4 o'clock. She mused over how such dreams could be had while awake, and decided that this was the hour when dreams must live freely and unfettered. The fourth hour dreams were not simply condemned to the confines of a sleeping mind that would only scramble upon waking to grasp onto the hint of something more wonderful than the present reality as it fled back into the deep darkness of the still seas. The fourth hour dreams were sweet and hopefully lasting. How wonderful were those dreams that love whispered to her drowsy mind, to her sudden desire to be fair. But when Vivian woke in the morning, the horizon of life had crept closer. The life that she must return to pressed in upon her, causing her to stumble and lose balance. And that's the end of that chapter that I continued at the top of the hour that we started last week. It's a very long chapter. Like I said, I think it's the longest chapter. Hey, Ashley, nice to see you. Thank you for tuning in. And I want to say hello to those of you who are watching, who are silent, just listening. It's nice to have you. I always appreciate that you're here. So, yeah, wow. I got some good news. I'm breaking the story. I shouldn't break the story, but it's nighttime and we're dreaming, right? They're in their bed dreaming. I'm going to be on the cover of the summer issue of our Journey magazine. Oh, happy dance. Oh, I just had to throw that in. Some things like that are just impossible to contain anyways. That's my good news. All right, let me take a time check. Okay, we're at the half-hour mark. I'm going to continue reading now on page 181. Okay, 181. This chapter is titled, Things Are Working Out Just Grand. The early morning mist settled on the farm. Joe sat in the kitchen with Michael, drinking a cup of tea and eating eggs and bacon. The hands on the face of the old clock hanging on the yellow wall pointed to 6. Thank you, Lauren. Michael glanced up from the paper he was reading and looked at Joe, who sat deep in thought. He and Claire liked the group staying with them. They were unusual sorts, but then wasn't it true that he and his wife were considered unusual sorts by the rest of the township? This didn't bother Michael. He had always been considered queer. He supposed it was because he had the fairy blood, His whole family did, or at least that had been the tale handed down mouth to ear in his family for generations. Michael's clear blue eyes focused on the leprechaun. Joe came out of his reverie and looked up. Michael gave a wink. I suppose you'll be worrying after your bus, he asked Joe. That's right, Joe replied, stuffing another forkful of eggs into his mouth. Well, now tell me. I might recommend we give your man Tommy McClintock a call. He's a damn good mechanic. He lives here in Kaitili. Joe stopped chewing and studied Michael's face. That would be lovely, Joe said, the relief visible on his ruddy face. I'll put you in touch with Tommy Den. Michael gave an authoritative nod and reached for the phone, then sat on a side cupboard littered with papers and other stuff. You can trust Tommy, the old farmer said as he wiped his mouth and dialed the man's number. Surely he'll be after me for waking him this early and on a holiday weekend and all, but Michael paused, eyes focusing on the invisible Tommy who had answered the line. And now, Tommy, is that you, lad? He asked. And a fine morning to ye. Now look, I've me a group staying with us, and they're having some trouble with their bus. That's right. I've got the driver right here now. Yes, yes, yes. I understand it's a holiday morning. And how was McHenry's last night? What's that? Joe watched Michael, absorbed in the conversation, and learned that Tommy had gotten quite pissed the night before from quaffing too much ale. He blinked, coming out of his thoughts as he heard his name. Michael handed him the receiver before giving his attention back to his paper. Honest as the day's end, Tommy told Joe right up front he'd need a few hours to check things out. I'll be meeting you at your bus at 7 o'clock, right? Said Tommy, to which Joe gratefully agreed. 7 o'clock, right, Joe confirmed. Thanks, Tommy. I'll see you then. He handed the receiver back to Michael, who placed it back in its cradle. Well then, I suppose you'll be needing a lift, Michael said, more as a confirmation that he'd take Joe. Joe gave a nod of the head. He wore a huge smile as he thought to himself, things are working out just grand, just grand. The two returned their attention to breakfast and the morning paper. At a quarter to the hour, Michael drove Joe to meet Tommy. The three Irishmen hovered inside the bus. Joe and Michael watched Tommy, a wiry fellow with curly black hair and gray eyes, as he fiddled with some engine wires, pushed the butterfly switch a couple of times, smelled the fuel pump line, and then climbed behind the wheel to give the engine a try. She started up, much to Joe's chagrin. Tommy turned and looked at the disgruntled Joe. You drive me car to the garage, and I'll drive her so I can listen to her, he said to Joe, then to the farmer. Michael, thanks. Joe will have the use of the car if I need to keep her in the shop and do some testing. Right, agreed Michael. Well then, he said to Joe, good luck. And off he went. By 7:30, Joe returned to the farmhouse, driving Tommy's car. He found Michael in the kitchen, sipping another cup of tea and still reading the paper. All fixed, is she? The half-fairy asked the leprechaun. Nah, we don't know what's wrong with her, Joe said, down a heavy look to his face. He was frustrated. How could the engine have started right up for the mechanic and not for him? He wondered, going back over last night's event. Now what? Asked Michael, turning to acknowledge his wife as she entered the back door. Claire, did you hear? Now that the bus started right up for old Tommy McClintock this morning. No. Now, did it really? Claire asked, setting a laundry basket down. She wiped her hands on her hips. Some more tea, Joe, without waiting for consent. Claire retrieved a new cup from the cupboard over the white-tiled counter. "Now we have to get this man a carriage, I suppose," said Michael. Joe gawked at Michael. A shiver ran through him. Now how could that wee man know what he was thinking? "Is that right?" said Claire, pouring tea into the cup and settled before Joe. "Your people won't be down for breakfast until 8:30, she said, glancing at the clock. "Late sleepers, are they?" She said more to herself than Joe. "That gives you another hour to find one. I suppose Jack Greer would be your man." "Right so," said Michael, scratching his head. "Now, where might his number be?" "Right," said his wife. "Try the blue book, dear. Try the blue book." Joe watched, astonished, as Michael rummaged through a drawer in the side cupboard where the house phone was kept and extract a blue book. He flipped it open, placed his finger down, and lifted the headset off the phone. Cradling the receiver awkwardly between cheek and shoulder, he punched the numbers and waited. "Jack, Michael Leary here. I've got me a man here who needs to rent a carriage from ye." "That's right. He's driving a tour around today." "Hmm? Yes. Tommy McClintock's working on the bus, right? Right, 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 right. No, don't know what's wrong with it. She just quit him on, yeah, last night, out on the Locker Road. That's right, near the Grange." "Ha, right, right. Terrible luck, that." He glanced at Joe and gave him a wink. "Ah, that's grand, just grand. Well, here's your man, Jack. The name is Joe Murphy." And with that, the phone was handed over. Jack Greer, another Kitili local, had just the bus to loan Joe for the day, and at a good price, too. "Come on over and pick her up," Jack instructed. "You can leave Tommy's auto at my place. I'll get it back to him." "I'll be coming right over, Den," Joe advised the man. "Thanks for all your help, Jack. Cheers." He handed the phone back to Michael, who replaced it into the cradle for him at a second time that morning. The two men smiled at one another. Claire stood over them watching. "Well, then," she said, pleased, "isn't it a grand day?" All right, that chapter's over. Gracie, what are you doing? Gracie, I got a little fairy dog right here at my feet. "Gracie, what are you doing?" And she's like a thumb sucker. If she was a child, she'd be sucking her thumb. She just chews on her little paw. So I hope everybody's doing well and you're having a great Thursday. It's a really nice Thursday here, and I'm enjoying myself immensely. I always enjoy myself here. And I'm going to read one last chapter today. My family is quick texting me because of the fact that I sent them a little happy dance, happy dance for being notified today that I'm going to be on the cover of our journaling magazine for summer. So it's a happy thing. It's a happy day. Big deal. Okay. You know what? I'm actually not in the mood to continue today. I know. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm too excited, and I'm looking at chat to see if there's any questions for me. Let me look at and I have 3 places to look for chatters, but I'm not seeing any there. And I'm not seeing any here. So, okay, that tells me that y'all are just so absorbed listening or not listening, just appeasing me by logging in and then just going off and doing whatever. But yeah, that's it for today. So bye. See you next week. Have a good one and keep up all your happy cheer. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you to those of you who also take time to watch the rerun here on Twitch. It's only available for 2 weeks, as you know. And then, of course, for those, thank you to those of you who take the effort to go to YouTube to watch the replays off the archive. Okay, bye.